We are live. Hello and welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, you are welcome to our very first YouTube live, Parenting with Dr. Jen. Hello, nice to meet you. I am Dr. Jen. I'm a parenting coach and the founder of Parenting with Dr. Jen and the Purposeful Parents Academy. This is exciting. This is the first of so many Thursdays to come. If you're just joining me, you're welcome. Let me see you in the comment section. Are you coming from any one of the Purposeful Parents communities? Which one of the communities are you coming from? Is this your first time coming across any one of my sessions? I would like to hear from you in the comments. We're going to be discussing a very, very interesting, a very relevant, and a topic that hits very, very close to home for so many of us, right? We are all living in a busy world. So many parents today have to juggle so many responsibilities and still show up to be a parent in the midst of it all. Before we go any further, please invite someone to join you. Share the link to this live session and be a blessing to another parent in your community, to another parent, who might just be needing what we are going to be talking about in today's session. Great, good thing we're always going to have a replay. Replays are always possible, but it's always best to be, in the session live so that we can ask questions and be able to interact and rub minds and leave here much, much better than we came. So we're going to be talking about purposeful parenting in a busy world, parenting with purpose in a busy world. And this was the theme for the Purposeful Parents in-person events in 2024. I went to several regions in Cameroon, hosting seminars, sharing with parents about how to stay purposeful, how to keep their focus a priority even though we are living in a very busy world, even though they have so many responsibilities to juggle. Because the truth is, in spite of all that you have to handle as a parent, you still have, sorry, as an adult, right? In spite of adulting, you still have to show up as a parent. You still have responsibilities as a parent. And what happens in the busy world for many parents is that they reduce their parenting role to just providing care, to just protecting their children, and they leave out some of the essential parts of their role as parents. We're going to be talking about all of those things in this session today. And this year's in-person event is going to take place under a different theme. That's why I decided to come on and share with anyone who, I know there are so many parents from the Purposeful Parents community who were really bummed that we were not able to stream the sessions that we had during the seminars. We were not able to stream them live. So this is an attempt. This is a gift from me to you for anyone who was not able to attend those seminars, those really insightful sessions. You can be able to glean at least something from what it is that we shared during the seminars. And mind you, the questions that you ask usually help get even more out of the session. Once again, you're welcome. I'm going to share a few slides with you in a moment. We're going to be talking about the strategies that you can employ to help you stay purposeful in your parenting in this busy world that we live in. Now, one thing I want you to picture this scenario. Imagine yourself going through a typical African market, right? A typical Cameroonian market, if you will. One thing that happens when you're in the market is that there is so much going on at once. And when I think about my life as a parent in a busy world, I can't help but picture myself in a market, right? Parenting in today's world can literally feel like you are in a busy market every single day. Now, I'm not talking about, when you go to a supermarket or to a shopping mall, that is just a walk in the park. But if you've been to a typical African market, a bustling African market, then you definitely can understand what I'm talking about, right? Just keeping your focus a priority when going through an African market is quite a challenge because everyone is trying to get a piece of whatever money it is that you came to the market with. Everyone is trying to get your attention. Everyone is trying to get you to notice what they are selling. And one thing that defeats any person who wanders into a market like that without a plan, without a vision, that's definitely what's going to defeat you. Because when you get into such a space where everyone comes to work daily, determined to ensure that they get something out of your pocket, you will hardly be able to make it out of there with the money that you went with, because you're going to definitely see a lot of good things. And one thing that is also hard when you enter a busy market is the fact that it's hard to, look ahead, right? When you're in a busy market, you're just trying to not get stepped on by some truck passing by. You're just trying to not get robbed. You're trying to hold on to your belongings. You're trying to evade the vendors that are trying so hard to get you to come to their store or come into their shop to see what they're selling. So when you're in a busy market, there is a lot pulling at you, trying to get your attention, trying to get a piece of the resource that you came to the market with your money. And that is the same scenario that parents today have to deal with on a daily basis. As we go further, we're going to see that parenting today is literally a game of time management. It's literally a game of you being able to wrestle with distractions daily so that you can keep your focus a priority. Because just like in a busy market, parenting in today's world entails you being able to, understand what is a priority per time and how to invest your time instead of just spending it. That's literally what this discussion comes down to. Your ability to understand what is at stake, understand that what you have is precious, and that there are so many good things that are going to compete for what you have. Without that understanding, you will easily be a victim, in this busy world as a parent, and you're going to let your children be vulnerable. So there's an image I have here which shows exactly what it is that parents are going through today. Many parents literally live like this, especially in homes where both parents have to work. It's always rush, rush, rush. The bulk of the day is spent at the job site, is spent, tackling different responsibilities. The amount of time that parents spend together in 24 hours with their children in this busy world is far less than what it was 10, 20 years ago. And that is one of the, that's one aspect of parenting in this world that every parent must have at the front of their minds, not at the back of it, at the front of it. Because when you realize that the amount of time that you get to do what it is that you're called to do in the life of your child is far less, you are more inclined to prioritize and be more intentional about what you're doing with that time. So there is no time. We are living in a busy world. Everyone is on the rush. Everything is go, go, go. From the time you wake up from bed in the morning, from Monday to Friday, you have kids that have to go to school. Maybe you have to go to work, and all of that. You realize that you have very little time left to spend with your children, during which the bulk of your parenting actually is supposed to take place. But even during that time, there is still a lot that competes for the parents' time. There is still a lot that is going to compete. So that time is not just sitting there waiting for you to come back and you're going to have all that time. There's still so many other things that you need to get done during that short space of time when you're supposed to be able to be with your children. So those are the realities of today. So this is the image of a bustling market, a typical African market, a typical bustling African market. When you're in this space, right, your focus becomes, how do I keep my feet clean? How do I ensure that I leave this market with my purse in hand? Because the tighter the market, the greater the chances of being robbed, the greater the chances of you entering a space and leaving far less than you entered, having lost not only your purse, but also other belongings, your phone and things like that. So when you're in a space like this, when you enter a bustling market, it is very likely that your focus will mostly be immediate, will mostly be about what's happening around you. It's hard to be in a space like this and yet be able to look far ahead, be able to look, keep on checking what's happening far ahead. Mostly, especially if you're coming to a space like this for the first time, your focus is likely to be just around you. What's happening in your immediate surroundings. How do I keep my feet, from being stepped on? How do I, avoid, somebody from pushing me or things like that? How can I find what I'm looking for? Because you are in the market because you need something, right? So those are all the things that are competing. Those are all, so you have distractions and you have priorities. So when you enter a space like the market, those are the two things that are, wrestling with each other. So it's hard to look far ahead in a busy world. Whereas success as a parent begins when you are able to look far beyond the present. Success as a parent largely depends on the parent's ability to look far beyond where they are at the moment. And that's hard because there is so much going on around you. Just the day-to-day responsibilities are enough to keep your head focused on the now, keep your sight focused on the now. But success as a parent on your journey largely depends on your ability to look far ahead and not just being limited by what's happening around you. So picture yourself in a market like this one in the picture. Picture yourself in such a market. What will it take? What are those things that can help you in that moment look beyond where you are? Stop being carried away just by what's happening around you and check ahead and look far ahead. You're going to realize that the first thing that you need in such a moment would be having a plan. Let's say I went to the market to pick up a particular item and I know exactly where this item is found. You obviously find me frequently lifting on my head to check if am I getting close to where I was going. But if you enter a market like this without a plan, chances are your head will just be around you all the time because you have nothing to look forward to. You have nothing to, keep checking the landmarks to see if you're on course. So without something, without a vision, without a plan, without something that can help you keep your perspective ahead as much as it is on the immediate circumstances, you will easily lose sight. You will easily be a victim of this environment. If you had the experience of going to a market, maybe without a plan, you've ever been to a market without a plan, maybe you just thought of something and you're passing through the market, say, oh, let me just go pick up this thing since I'm waiting near the market. And you hop into the market. Many times, you're going to find out that you ended up buying more than what you came to buy, especially if you had extra cash for which, there was no purpose clearly defined for it. So one of the things that causes parents to constantly be in a disadvantaged position in a busy world is the fact that most parents are going about parenting focusing only on the immediate, carried away by all the hustle and bustle that is happening around them, the day-to-day life of being a parent, of trying to fend for your kids, and just most parents only look, a little ahead in terms of maybe academics. Where is my child going to go to school? Are we going to move from here? But I'm talking about looking really far ahead. Success on your parenting journey begins when you are able to look far beyond the present. Because it is that perspective that will determine what you do now. It is your ability to look far ahead that will dictate the path that you follow now. It is your ability to see far ahead that will shape the decisions that you're making, that will influence your decisions. So if you're only limited by your present, all you see is what is around you, then that is when you're going to easily be trapped by the different, things that are just waiting to trap parents in this day and age, in this busy world. So the scripture that, informs parents about what it is that your assignment is, Proverbs 22 verse 6. Now, this scripture says that we should start off children in the way to go. Even when they are old, they will not turn from it. They will not turn from it. Now, I know we've heard this scripture so many times, but the perspective I want you to have from this scripture today is that of legacy. Now, what is legacy? Legacy is something that comes into being when you are no longer there. So every person's legacy, any person's legacy actually comes to being, actually comes into effect when you're no longer there. So when you exit the stage, your legacy comes into being. But the truth is, even before you exit, you are already building it. So when you realize that the decisions and choices you make today will live beyond you, it helps you to not be able to afford being casual today in your approach to parenting. When you realize that what you entered a market with is all you have, you can't afford to allow vendors, pull you to every corner. You came there for something, and you realize that what you have in hand is exactly sufficient for that thing you came to the market for. So no matter how enticing whoever is showing to you, it's not going to move you. Why? Because you came there for a purpose. So nothing streamlines the parent's focus in a busy world than having clearly defined purpose. When you realize that every decision you're making today as a parent will live beyond you. Every choice you make as a parent, all the decisions you're taking, everything you're doing as a parent today will not end with your children, but will go beyond them to their children and their children's children. So every parent is building a legacy. The question is, what will be the impact of that legacy? Will it have a positive ripple effect or a negative one? So we're not just parenting in isolation, parenting in a bubble, where you think that what you're doing will end, it ends when you end. No. So the choices you're making do not only affect your children, but it goes beyond them. So if you learn nothing new on your parenting journey, if you don't make learning a priority on your parenting journey, you will find out that the majority of your decisions and choices will be shaped by your experiences, your emotions, and your convenience. So if two people enter a market, right? One of them has a very clear plan, not just for what they want to get in the market on that day, but what they are allowed or what they can spend. Maybe they have a budget plan for the entire year, even, or maybe for that month. And they enter into the market with a piece of, a portion of their resources. And then you have another person who goes into the market just with a list, for now. I'm just going to get this for today. And I have this amount of money. Now, even if whatever the first person who has a long-term plan, no matter what you are bringing at them, the chances of you being able to deter their focus is very slim. It's slim to none. Compared to one who just has a list and is just living for now. I'm just here for the now. I'm just here to get these things for now. I don't have a plan for, 1 month, 2 months, the whole year. It doesn't really matter to me. That's why anything extra I can spend on whatever I like. So you realize that what you can afford is also controlled by how far you can see. When you sit down to make long-term plans, you're going to realize that it actually curbs your excesses. You don't struggle with excesses when you are able to draw up a long-term plan, because that plan influences what you're doing now. If you've ever sat down to draw up maybe a 10-year plan, financial plan, for example, right? You realize that even when you have what we call leftover, maybe change, even the way you regard what is left over, it's different from someone who just has what has come in for the month to spend and that's it. They live from month to month. Your approach to your resources for these two people will be very different, because one is only looking at the present while another is looking far ahead. So the reason why we must pay attention to how we parent today is because of its ability to shape the legacy of that family. Every day, the decisions you're making is adding to the legacy you're building, whether consciously or unconsciously. What will that legacy be about? How far-reaching will be the influence of that legacy? How far-reaching is it going to be? One of the favorite, the best character in the Bible that actually clearly depicts what or how powerful a person's legacy is the story of Abraham in the Bible, right? So he's called, the father of many nations, but we often refer to God as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, that particular phrase has a significance. It is referring to Abraham's legacy. That's Abraham's legacy. That particular statement refers to his success in not just raising his child such that the child will not turn, but it was able to continue beyond his child's child and their child's child. So that's what you're referring to. You say the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? You're talking in that phrase, in that particular name, way that we refer to God. You're referring to Abraham's success. Because if Abraham was not successful in raising a child that will not depart, who also raised a child that did not depart, so you see, that's legacy. So he was able to pass down values and beliefs from himself to his child, who passed it from himself to his child, but it originated from Abraham. That is legacy. That is when parenting success begins. When you're able to think in that dimension, that what you are doing today should not end with you. Now, there's so many parents here who are coming from the Purpose Parents community, who are taking courses, who are learning. You realize that the impact of what you're doing, the fact that you're able to spare your child certain amounts of trauma, raise a child that will not need to recover from their childhood. You're not just doing it for that child, but you're also permitting your grandchildren to have a parent who is wholesome. But the parent of your grandchildren is still a child. When you start thinking in that dimension, there are so many things that you will not be able to afford. That from before it begins, you will say, no, this is not for me. The reason why parents are struggling today, being pulled left and right, complaining about not having time, is simply because they do not have vision. They are not looking beyond the present. They're not looking beyond, well, my child go to school, university. There's some parents who have not even thought about where their children will go to university while the children are still toddlers. It hasn't even crossed their minds yet. After all, the child is still small, right? So many parents are parenting like this, just like in a busy market. You need to pay attention to those around you so that you don't get stepped on, you don't get robbed. But when someone steps into a market with a clearly defined plan, even while juggling all of the busyness around them, they will still lift up their head to check whether they are approaching where they are headed to. The only person who doesn't care to lift up their head to check is the one that entered the market without the plan. Anyway, I just came to do eye shopping. I just came to see if I can see something nice. You were just happening by the market and then you hopped into it. So it doesn't really bother you what is ahead. All you're concerned about is what is around you. Success depends on your ability to look beyond the present. Because everything you're deciding today needs to have where you're going in perspective. Without that, you will make decisions that will defeat you ahead. That will defeat your cause as a parent ahead. Let me take a simple example of the screen. There's so many parents who are making decisions about the screen without having the future in view. Let's take, for example, a parent who has a 1-year-old on the screen. In that, the parent's focus in that moment is just, let this child just leave me alone to do what I have to do. I just need to keep this child busy so I can get this thing done. So your focus is just, I just want to survive. I just want to be convenient now. I just want to enjoy some comfort now. So I give this to the child. But if that parent had a future perspective, had the perspective of looking ahead, that parent will realize that even though I need this child to be, to give me some space, giving this screen will cause this child 2, 3, 4 years down the line to have issues with their focus. So you see that ignorance comes into play. The lack of vision comes into play. Not having knowledge, not being able to determine what parameters should you even be considering in that moment. That should influence the decision you're about to make. Without you having all of those things in place, you find out that your decision in the moment will only be shaped by your convenience, by your own experiences, and by your emotions. What it is that you want to achieve in that moment will only be shaped by your perspective in the moment and nothing beyond that. So your legacy of success as a parent depends on, firstly, your ability to recognize your purpose. What do you want to accomplish? What are you meant to accomplish as a parent? You didn't just get your child like that by chance. God is not a God of by chance. Everything is a part of a plan. So what is it that you want to accomplish? What is your purpose? What kind of child are you raising? Who are they supposed to become? That understanding is supposed to be at the core of all the decisions you're making on your parenting journey. What's my purpose? What role am I to play? Who am I to become if my child is supposed to become, who they were created to become? Because there is someone you're supposed to become. The kind of parent that is required to raise a Mark Zuckerberg, for example, is different from the kind of parent required to raise a Samuel Eto'o who is good in football. Those are two different kinds of parents. Different kinds of skill sets are required. Different kinds of understanding is required. So your purpose, the decisions you're making will be influenced by your purpose, what you understand about what it is that you're supposed to become to enable your child become who they were created to become. The second thing that is crucial for your legacy of success as a parent is your understanding of time. Time. How important is time? How are you managing time? Because your assignment as a parent has to be accomplished in time. So time is the resource that you have been given. How are you using it? The next thing is knowledge. What do you know? We just talked about, a simple example of how parents make decisions about screens. You realize that without knowledge, the decision you're making will work against you. That's why the Bible says it's ignorance that destroys. So knowledge, the road you are on, the decisions you are making, are they taking you closer to where you are supposed to be going? Or do you even know where you're supposed to go? So purpose comes first, and then the knowledge that you need will help you determine what I'm doing now. Is it getting me closer to where I need to be? And finally, skill. We've been talking about emotional intelligence throughout this month. How can you impress your values? How can you train up your child in the way that he should go so that he will not depart from it? It takes skill. And amongst the different skills you need, emotional intelligence is one of them. So it's one thing to know your purpose, to know, to manage your time properly, to have knowledge, but without skill, you're still going to fall short. You're still going to fall short. There's a lot that you're still going to struggle with. So the reason why the beginning point is purpose and vision is because until you have seen, you cannot really build anything tangible. There is no house, there is no structure that exudes beauty that did not have a very meticulous plan. Look at the most beautiful human erected buildings in the world. They have very neatly crafted architectural plans. So without vision, you cannot build anything tangible. Talk less of admirable. So the image I have here is the image of something that is commonly called kotanelam. The kind of home where the person doesn't really need a plan. It's just something to have a roof over their heads. You just, pick whatever you can pick any sheet of zinc, get a hammer, get a nail, just put it together anyhow. Without vision, that's how many parents are parenting. That's exactly what you're doing. When you don't have an understanding about what your role is, who you're supposed to raise, who you're supposed to become to raise that child to become who they're meant to become, this is exactly what you're doing. You're building a shanty. There are so many parents, so many adults today who are not able to operate from a place of purpose just because their parents also did not have vision. They went about it without purpose. They were just raising you to get a job, just raising you to have a salary. It was mostly about just earning a living instead of really making an impact. One of the things that the things that I usually ponder on is why Africa, a whole continent, right, is looking towards another continent, for inspiration, for help. I mean, we are an entire continent, but our outlook is always towards another continent that has invested so much in developing themselves. We are far back when it comes to development. What was lost in translation in that process? What was lost in translation? That's the question I ask myself. What was lost in translation? Is it that the other people, do they have two brains, two heads, or what's happening with our own heads? Where was there a loss in translation? So the reason why many adults today are not able to find and fulfill purpose is because our parents built without following a blueprint. There is a blueprint for parenting. There is a blueprint for parenting. And at the foundation of it has to be who the child needs to become. So how you go about it depends on who you have been given to raise. So without purpose, you cannot build anything that will last long, right? So legacy that lasts, a legacy that outlives you, for generations and generations to come, needs careful planning. It needs you to actually sit down and ask yourself, what will this family be known for? I commonly use the example of Henry Ford. If you've heard of Ford Motors, I think that's one of the only companies in the world. I think there are just about a handful of them that have lived for how many years? I think it's from 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. That's it, and it's still in the family. It's still a family legacy. When we look at, let's just look at, so when I was doing this research and I had to check out the companies in the world that have been, have existed for centuries and are still a family legacy, there was none from Africa. There was none from Africa. They all came from different places. So America, you have Henry Ford, you have Ford Motors, then you have a good number of them in Japan. Japan had a good number of them. I think there was some, in Eastern Europe and stuff like that. But there was none from Africa. So when you are building your family legacy, you must think about how far it has to go. That's why I said parenting success must go beyond you just raising your children properly. You must consider how far do I want these values I'm impressing on them to go. That will determine the intensity with which you impress them. That will determine the intensity with which you impress them. So for Abraham to have raised a child that will successfully raise his own child and their child after that, to continue in the same way, there was a great degree of intentionality. The intent was to ensure that it was passed down, that it did not just end. That was why God chose Abraham. Many times, in fact, before I became a parenting coach, up till the point where I prepared for this seminar, I actually believed that Abraham was chosen because of his faith, that God will fulfill his promise. Yes, because of his love for God, because he served God. I believe that's why God chose him. But that was not it. When you read the scriptures, that was not the reason why Abraham was chosen. The reason why he was chosen as the father of faith, the father of many nations, was because God needed an assurance that the person I am entrusting this thing to, it will not die with him. Because imagine that Abraham had to pass away with all of his love and devotion for God and was unable to raise someone that will continue to replicate that. There will be a breach. And God is a God of legacy. If you're a godly parent and you understand how God thinks, He is a God of legacy. Because legacy is more important to God than one person. That's what ensures that his name gets carried from one generation to the next. It's not just about me and my children and now. No, it has to be beyond that. So success from God's perspective must go beyond you. That's why Eli and Abraham both loved God, but one of them was chosen to be the father of faith, while the other one was wiped out because he failed to propagate. He never understood the legacy part of his parenting. He thought that it was just all about him doing what he could do in the now. It ends here and now with me. So success begins with a vision, but then it also needs a plan. So you've seen where you have to go. You've seen where you have to take the child to. But then how do you go from where you are to where you need to be? There is no beautiful structure. There is no system that is working beautifully well that does not have a clearly defined plan. There is none. So every success begins with a good plan, with a clear vision, but it also needs a good plan. Some of the things that help, if you are struggling in a busy world as a parent, it's at the core of it is the lack of clarity, when it comes to your vision, and also the lack of planning. For many parents, planning is mostly about paying fees budgeting for, the child's needs, just mostly entry level stuff. Feeding the children, clothing them, sending them to school, planning how you do the next academic year. That's about it. For many parents, planning is just about academics, and the child's career. So it's mostly about the career path. That's why you can afford to not make time to sit down and shape your child's character, because your focus is mostly academic. Success for you is just raising a child that will get a job and be rich, or earn better than you, if I may. But there's more to it than that. There is more to it than that. So the next thing I said we needed for your a successful legacy as a parent is you need to understand the priority of time. It's the most precious thing you have, because it's limited. You can always get more money, you can always get other friends, you can always get other positions, other jobs, but you can never get your time back. The time I just spent for the beginning of this session, I can never get it back. The time you spend listening to me, you can never get it back. Hopefully, I've added value to you in that short space of time. So next question is, what are you trading your time for? How are you using your time? What are you impressing on your children and the next generation? Because if you agree with me that everything you're deciding today, everything you're doing today does not end here. The person you are today was influenced or partly shaped by people that you never even met. Now, let's talk about family traditions. All right. If you really want to understand just how far-reaching legacy is, let's talk about either family traditions or the culture in some of our villages. Who instituted some of those things, especially the ones that don't serve us? You realize that even though the people that instituted it are no longer there, those things are still being perpetuated, and it's still having an effect on people's lives today. There are so many families with family traditions that does not necessarily serve them well, but that is still being propagated. It's still being used. Why? The person who set up such a legacy is no longer there, but the legacy is still speaking. Hopefully it's positive. That's why you need to be intentional about what that legacy is going to be. What is your family going to be known for? The children you're raising, what values do you want them to stand for? That is the crux of parenting that is successful. So no vision can come to pass without a quality investment of time. There is a difference between just spending your time and investing time. Investment comes into view when it is done according to a plan. When time is used according to a plan. The time I'm using now, I'm investing it, is intentionally calculated. This is an investment of time. I'm not just spending it. Spending time maybe when you're just scrolling aimlessly on Facebook, you're spending time. You're not investing it. So an investment of time comes when a plan was first of all instituted. So you're actually just executing the plan. That's an investment of that time, because you're using it to get to somewhere. So what this means is that your commitment to train your child is what is the most important part of this conversation about parenting. It's all about your commitment. Now, yes, the world is busy. We're getting there, all right? But this is the foundation. It's important that we lay this foundation. Your commitment to train is the core of the conversation, is the core of your ability to thrive, even though you're parenting in a busy world. Remember that Abraham was chosen not just because he believed or loved God, but because he was committed to train. God was sure that because he was committed to train, it was guaranteed that what he was impressing will continue beyond him. So that is the most important part of the conversation about parenting. How committed are you for the core of your role as a parent, which is to provide training? Your role is not just providing or protecting. Those are important, right? Even prisoners get those things. But what makes you different from what happens in a prison or from the caregiving to prisoners is the fact that you have to go the extra mile to train, to impress values, to ensure that the person you're raising will continue to uphold a certain set of values. That's what makes it different. That's what makes the difference. So What is the quality of the time is more important than the quantity of the time, especially in a busy world. It's not the quantity of time that counts, but the quality. And quality has to do with how much of it was invested versus how much of it was spent. How much of it was invested? What part of the time that you say you spend with your children was actually invested versus spent? So if you're struggling to get results on your parenting journey, it might just be not that you don't have time, but that you are mostly spending it instead of investing it. That's where the problem comes from. And that is what defeats parents in today's busy world. It's not the fact that there is no time. I get it, right? Time is limited, but that's not the problem. The problem is the lack of skillfulness, is the lack of planning that will position the parent or enable the parent to invest the time that they finally get to spend with the child. That's what makes the difference. So there are so many, in fact, we are all parenting today in a busy world, right? But the reason why some are succeeding while some are not is just based on this understanding. You can't assume that every parent who is working is failing as a parent. No. Neither can you assume that every parent who is staying at home is succeeding. I've seen parents who are stay-at-home parents who have major struggles. And you would think that your problem is because you work. That's not your problem. That's not the problem. It's not automatically the advantage, but it's not also the problem. That's not the core of the problem. The problem today is not just whether you have left your job and you're staying at home with the kids, because you can actually stay at home with the kids and still be absent. That's the problem. The problem is because parents are there, but they are absent. And then when they are, for those who are absent because they are working, when they finally show up, they don't know how to show up completely. They show up in part. So loving and serving God alone is not enough. It's not enough. This conversation is not about whether or not you love or serve God. That's not the point here. That's not what determines your success as a parent. Because if that was enough, then Eli would never have had a problem. It is your commitment to training. When parents ask me, oh, how do you know whether this thing you're teaching, how do you know all the things you're suffering and doing, whether these children will not to grow up and miss their way? That's why, for those who follow me, you must have heard me say that one of the worst things I hate hearing parents make the statement, you can give birth to a child, you can't give birth to their heart, and statements like that imply that, well, just do what you can do, and anyhow, it's God that determines how the child will end up. That's not what the scripture said. So if you say you're a person of faith, then you must take scriptures literally, as it was said. Take it at face value. If God said train and the child will not depart, the question is, how are you training? So the child not departing is not your business. That's not your problem. Your focus should be to ensure that you're training effectively. Is my training effective? Or am I building castles in the air? What skill set, what knowledge, how have I prepared myself to be able to train effectively? So your focus as a parent should be on being able to train effectively. But many times we worry about, the child not departing and forget that we're supposed to be training or majoring in the minors. You're focusing on what is not your business. Your business is not whether or not the child will depart. Your business is in doing the part that God said you should do, and then leave the not departing part to Him. Are you providing the training effectively? If we go into the Bible and look at what Abraham did, we'll see that he was an available father. He was a present and involved father. And one of the ways that I'm able to draw this conclusion is because of the amount of trust that Isaac had when Abraham told him, climb on this altar for sacrifice. Where is the lamb? God will provide. You first of all climb. That's a trusting son. That tells of relationship. It tells of intimacy. It tells of blind trust. It tells of the fact that this boy has been with his father long enough to know that this man can be trusted. We always think that trust is something that you just get as a parent because of your title. In my upcoming book, I actually dissected, this the example of Abraham in that book, to help parents see that trust is not something you inherit because you earn the title of father or mother. You don't just get it. You build it. You earn it by showing up and investing time. That's how you get it. So what you decide to do with the 24 hours you get every day is what's actually shaping your legacy. You have shaped your legacy today. There are things you have done as a parent today that have made an input into your legacy. Every 24 hours you get shapes your legacy. Brings you either closer to raising a child that will not depart or the opposite of that. So how you are investing your time is the core of this conversation. What are you investing it for? Are you even investing it at all? How you invest your time is what determines whether or not you're building a shanty or you're building a skyscraper. So the results you're getting is a product of the quality of the investment of your time. Now, if you look back at, let's just take, for example, for you who is listening, who is watching, think about how you spent your day of yesterday with your child as a parent. You realize that in a busy, one of the things that happens in a busy world is the fact that parenting is mostly reduced to a transactional relationship. Where, just think about yesterday, all right? You don't need to share with me, just reflect about how you spent your time of yesterday as a parent. How much of that time had to do with you entering into your child's world and being able to relate with them from there? How much of that time was spent for that? How much of that time was spent impressing values, teaching something to the child patiently, lovingly, sharing your lives. Now, when I talk about shared lives, I'm not just talking about your child saying, this shoe is paining. Okay, go and change the shoe. Or can you bring me this? That's transactional parent. That's you just being transactional. You do this for me, I do this for you. But the part that should count towards the training you're supposed to provide is what happens, how you're using that time to build that child towards what they're supposed to become. Every day, there has to be some amount of investment. A little here, a little there. So knowledge about what works, but also what doesn't work. That's the next thing you need to build your legacy of success. Find what wounded you so you can heal and teach and pass wisdom. Now, when we talk about the aspect of knowledge, when it comes to you succeeding as a parent, one of the things that you must realize is that knowledge is not just about knowing what to do now, but also about knowing what you should no longer do. And that goes back to you looking at what you inherited. Because the first school of parenting every parent attended is their childhood. You never enrolled for that school. You were enrolled by default. Nobody asked to be enrolled in the school, but that is the first school you attended. There are some things that our parents did that were not right. Out of ignorance, all right? We give it to them. But then you are giving up your power to change it when you fail to learn. When you fail to learn, you are refusing to take part in the script that has been written for you to parent with. Every parent is parenting with a script. You have a script. There's a script that you're living out on your parenting journey today. You are actually just, reenacting that script. But if you fail to learn, you have given up your power to actually make positive change. Because you will simply just take what you've inherited and just pass it down without questioning it, without, figuring out, is this really working or is it not working? There are so many things you do as a parent today that were first done to you. But because you've never taken time to sit down and look at it through the lens of knowledge so that you can be able to decipher what served you and what wounded you. So you can decide, all right, this didn't serve me, this wounded me, let's put it aside and let's take up this one instead. That's what learning does. A parent of 10, 20 years ago might easily get a free pass on the errors they made in their parenting because they never had access to the kinds of opportunities that we have today. Imagine having access to all this knowledge, all these resources, and still choosing to pass down wounds instead of wisdom. So you must find out what wounded me. Now, this is not about us saying our parents were bad. That's not the question here. That's not the point. The point here is if someone did something ignorantly and you have the opportunity to wear glasses of knowledge, the lenses of knowledge with which you can be able to analyze that thing that was done and ask yourself, was this right? Was this beneficial? Is this a good thing for me to pass it on to my child or not? I love how scriptures put it. Jesus said, what kind of father whose child will ask him for bread will give him stone, or ask for fish and will give a snake? So there is no parent who would consciously choose to pass down wounds, but yet wounds are still being passed down. So the question is why? Because many parents are choosing to continue in the ignorance, to continue using the script that they were given. So you were given a script. You were given a script from your parents. There's a script that has been, is being perpetuated in your family line. It's been going from generation to generation. The same patterns. This is how we always do it. You just take it and you just keep doing it that way. You never question anything. So the skill to enable you train, right? Skill is required. Now let me tell you something about legacy that is really striking, that can make anyone sit up. The thing about legacy, like I said earlier, is the fact that true legacy comes into effect when the person is no longer there. Now, if the strength of your parenting is fear, that means that your legacy is weak. You know why? Because when you that was feared is no longer there, what upholds what should continue as your legacy? Those things that you were teaching and enforcing, using force, using fear, when you, the object of your children's fear, is no longer there, what happens to the legacy? It crumbles. There are actually stories of successful business people who, on passing on to glory, what the massive businesses they had built just comes crashing. Why? Because they failed to train, to pass on, to build a legacy that would continue to stand even when they were no longer there. That's what usually happens. So that's the same thing you must ask yourself about your parenting. Now, if everything I'm doing is just based on how much my children fear me, how much my children panic when I show up, how much my children care to do what I'm asking them to do because they are seeing me, because I'm there, what should bother you is what your children are doing when you're not there, even while you're still alive. Because the true test of parenting is not what happens in your presence, but what happens in your absence. That is what gives you the biggest feedback about the strength of your parenting techniques. Are you raising a child who is becoming very skillful at being double-sided? One person in front of their parent because of fear, but when they go out amongst their peers, they are a completely different human being. It means that you are not impressing on that child properly. You're depending on fear. And fear is a very ineffective tool for building legacies. Because when you, the object of fear, is no longer there, the legacy will crumble. Because what it was built upon is no longer existing. So you can't base your parenting strategies on fear. So you see this thing that we brag and say, oh yes, if when I just show up, that's how my children are panicking. That is not something you should brag about. You're failing. You're failing as a parent. If that is the strength of your parenting, how much your children fear you, you are failing. Why? Because even before they reach adulthood, by the time they reach an age where they can challenge you, those things you used to force them to do, they will easily depart from it. Again, Abraham was able to pass it on to his child, his child's child, and their children after that. It was not by whip that those values were passed down. That impression was not made with a cane. We're going to have another session where we'll talk about, the topic that many parents have been waiting for the day I'm going to share it publicly. I'm going to actually share it publicly. We We believe that the strength your success as a parent is in how you're able to hit your children, or how you're able to beat them, or how much they fear you. You're failing. If that is the strength of your parenting, I can tell you fully you're failing. You're failing. Because once you're not there, the fear also is gone. If it was you your children feared, once you take off, once you exit, right, the fear goes with you. So every parent is building a legacy. The question is, how long will it last? What will be the impact of that legacy? When you're no longer there, how long will it continue to go? So your most precious resource is your time. No matter what you give to your child, no matter what you put to the table, no matter what you bring to the table, no matter what you bring to the table, the most precious thing to give a child is your time. Because everything that you're meant to do in the life of your child as a parent requires time. It requires time. What you have to teach requires time. What you need to correct requires time. When you need to encourage them, it requires time. You need to work so you can pay fees, it still requires time. So time is the currency you're trading with. That's what you're trading with. Another thing you must remember is the fact that you are a custodian. You have been entrusted with something precious. And that precious thing came to you in a raw form. One of my favorite things to remind parents about is the fact that, scriptures tell us that children are gifts from God, right? And the scriptures also tell us that God is a giver of every good and perfect gift. That means that even when your child does a foolish thing, they are still a good and precious gift. Even in that moment. So the problem is not the problem is not the child, it is with the act. You're a custodian of unlimited potential that your child is carrying. Every child is sent to earth with unlimited potential. Unlimited. But what happens is that it's lost in translation on the way to adulthood. What happened to it? Now, look at the analogy of this bar of gold. Let's say that the raw form of gold, the black dirty one above in the picture, is what the child arrives earth as. This is how children arrive earth. They arrive earth, shapeless, without form, without revealing. The potential is there. So this ugly piece of let's call it rock, is actually gold, but in its unrefined state. Now, the gold that we appreciate and we pay lots of money for is not this state. It doesn't look like this. It looks like the one below it. That's the one where everyone on passing by will look 3 times, will come back and check, will ask the price. That's what everyone wants. Nobody wants that unfinished product. Everybody wants the finished, polished, shiny, attractive product. But then, how much of this finished product you see is determined by how skillful the person who is handling the raw form is. I want you to see yourself as the gold refiner. You're like a gold refiner, someone that refines gold. Your skillfulness in handling gold in its raw form is what will determine how much it will be worth when it gets to its finished state. So if you're unskillful, you're going to lose a lot of it in the process. So many of us adults have made it to adulthood. We say we are okay, but then what was lost along the way because of how we handled was the potential that we carried. One of my missions, one of my assignments is to empower parents to raise their children and deliver them into adulthood with with their potential intact. Imagine that. Imagine that you were able to reach adulthood with your full potential. Can you imagine that? Because God does not create people without impact in mind. Let me say it again. God did not create anyone without impact in mind. Every child came to earth as a blessing, carrying a solution. But how many of them are able to deliver that solution in adulthood? That's the big question. So what happened to the potential? What happened to the solution they were carrying? You were born to solve a problem. Which problem are you solving now? Every answer to the challenges we have on earth today is sent to earth, is sent, through children who are being born. But then, how many of those solutions actually get expressed in adulthood? If we look at all the things that we are enjoying today, the things that people have innovated, even this software we're using, it was actually created by someone, was innovated by someone, put on the market by someone. It came from someone's mind. All right. So if such a person was raised by you, was your child, would the world have been able to receive this gift from them, to be blessed by this thing that they created? These are all pertinent questions we must ask ourselves as parents. Because while you tell yourself that is your child, you can do as you please, the question is, what is at stake? What does the world, what do I stand to lose? What does this child lose when I choose to handle them without any care or concern about what it is that they carry? That's the most important question. How much of what my child was sent to earth with will reach the adult years when they're supposed to express it? So you are also the custodian of time. Many parents don't realize this, but you're not just the custodian of your time, but you're also the custodian of your child's time. And that's true. That's why when the conversation comes up of when parents say, oh, you cannot really blame the parent for how a child turns out because the child goes to school, the child will meet bad friends, the child is in the neighborhood, people will corrupt it. So, you can only do what you can. All of these things that parents say, if you look at it at the core of it, it's a way of relinquishing responsibility. To say, I don't try my best. Anyhow, they begin come out, I do my own. No. Look, what I choose when it comes to the responsibility of being a parent, of carrying that title, I choose to look at it from a place of empowerment. And let me tell you what that means. If you think about your role as a parent as vulnerable to all these external influences to which you are powerless against, that means that you are, in fact, you are at the mercy of every other person. But that's not true. If you understand the institution of family and what God intended through parenting, then you will understand that you have more power than that. That's why you should be able to boldly say, I am responsible for who this child will turn out to be. When you are able to think like that, it helps you to approach your role with all seriousness. Who chooses the school your child attends? Is it the child? Who chose the neighborhood where you stay? Was it your child? Who chooses, when your child is going somewhere, don't they tell you? Don't they say, Mama, I have to go visit this person? You are a custodian of your child's time as well. While they are still a minor, you are a custodian of their time, whether directly or indirectly, but you are still implicated. So when parents tell me, oh, the friends who chose the neighborhood, because just by choosing where you live, many parents don't think about the impact of where they are raising their children, what it has on the child they are raising. The environment is a key factor when it comes to the child you're raising. So if all you're thinking about is, oh, this neighborhood is close to this person is living here, what about the influence in that neighborhood? What are the children in that neighborhood? What are the things that are prevalent in that neighborhood? Are there many drug addicts there? Are there many thieves in that area? Are there, do people there leave their children to chance? Who is raising the children? How is the neighborhood? What impact will it have on my child? You are responsible for that decision. So you can't say that, oh no, Pekin is the friends, is the school, and you even blame the school on top of it. If you attend any of my back to school webinars, then you understand what I mean. Choosing the choice of school you make for your child is going to be born from whether or not you understand the impact that a particular school can have on the shaping of your child. You cannot ignore it. It's very powerful. So you cannot just choose a school based on the uniform was nice, or Mamingo's children go to that school and the children are doing well. You can't base it off that. There's a lot more to the conversation than that. But that's not the focus of this topic, right? We're not talking about that today. We're talking about parenting in a busy world. And I'm trying to build a foundation before I share. Strategies are very, they're very straightforward. I'm going to share them with you as we approach the end of this session. All right. So you are a custodian of your child's time. See, when you embrace the responsibility for who your child is going to turn out to be, it is empowering. That tells me that I get to have a say about where my child is spending time, about how the people around my child are influencing the child. I get to have a say. Even if it's indirectly, I am not powerless. When you take the perspective of, is the school, is the friends, is the this, you're saying that as a parent, you have no power. Whereas you do, but you just relinquished the power. You gave it up. So don't give up your power as a parent. Take hold of it. Face your front and embrace your responsibility as a parent. That whoever my child turns out to be, I am responsible for it because that was my assignment. You can't give it up. If you give it up, you're also giving up your power. You're giving up your power. And that power was given to enable you be able to train the child. So there are some things that parents believe that actually is responsible for the key errors that many parents are making in today's busy world. And the first error parents are making is thinking that they don't have time. You do have time. What you don't have actually may be a lack of structure. Every parent gets 24 hours. Is there any parent, maybe the one who is succeeding, do they have 30 hours? No. Nobody gets 30. Nobody gets 50. Nobody even gets 24.5 hours. Everybody gets sharp 24 hours. The same amount of time is given to each and every person under the sun for every given day. So the parent succeeding and the one struggling in this same busy world, those parents are doing something you're not doing. And one of those things is structure. Now, structure is what gives you time, even when you don't have time. When you create structure in your home, when you create structure around your time, it enables you to, to schedule your priorities instead of the other way around. Many parents schedule their tasks, but not their priorities. When you build structure, it enables you to schedule your priorities every day, meaning that you're building a plan for your time around what is important and not the other way around. So everyone is busy, but the question is, what are you busy about? You might say that this is important to me, my child is important to me, this is important to me, good. But when you go down to the nitty-gritty of the matter, what is truly important to you is reflected in how you allocate your time. And this is not just about quantity of time, but about quality of time. There's a difference between the two. And the difference is what makes all the difference. All right. The second misbelief that many parents have is thinking that they have time. Now, the first myth was, I don't have time. I don't have time means that your excuse for not being able to do better as a parent is because you're too busy. According to you, you don't have time. Your problem is not that you don't have time. Your problem is that you don't know what to do with the time when you eventually get it. That talks about quality and not quantity. So I know there are parents in the deeply rooted tribe, in the 1-year program, who have taken courses, who have learned about how to give value, how to put quality in the time that they spend with their children, that get to spend just about 15 minutes, 30 minutes a day with their children, but that appreciates in terms of the quality of their relationship. That gives them more wins than a parent who is spending all day at home as a stay-at-home parent, but still struggles a lot. So it's not about how much time you're spending, but it's about knowing what you ought to be doing with that time that counts towards getting you to where you ought to be, towards getting you to that destination that you had seen. So parenting is a time-bound assignment. Second myth, you have time. You don't have time actually. All right. Many parents get casual because when their child is just born, they think that they see 18 years like 180 years. 18 years is not a lot of time. It's actually very short. In fact, it's not short, it's just enough. 18 years is just enough. So parenting is a time-bound assignment with an 18-year curriculum. Now, if you're a teacher or if you've been to school, then you'll agree with me that if what was supposed to be taught in class 1 is not taught, and then they try to cramp it into class 2, it causes a problem. or you try to go to class 2 without having gone through class 1, there's still a problem. So it's it's a time-bound assignment. It's limited in time, and it has an 18-year curriculum. So there's what you ought to be doing in those first 18 years that counts towards getting your child to where they need to be by the time they become an adult. The next thing that misleads parents is thinking that I can catch up later. No, don't worry. Let me just do this now. Let me just rush and, just take the child for me, keep for the next 5 years. Let me rush and go do this, and the parent is off, especially when the child is still very little, which on the contrary is the foundational stage of the child's journey. I can catch up later. You can never catch up anything later because time gone can never be recalled. Once your child passes a stage, they are not going back there. Your child will never be 2 again. They'll never be 3. They'll never be 4. Once they're past that stage, it's gone forever. So parenting is in seasons. Am I saying that the parent is a slave that should tie the child to their leg and never be able to go anywhere? Of course not. That's not what I'm saying. That's not my point. All right? So the point is that you must understand, you must have a seasonal mindset when it comes to how you approach parenting. When you have a seasonal mindset, what that means is, okay, let's take, for example, the dry season and the rainy season. There are certain things that you can do in the dry season that you can't do in the rainy season, and vice versa. It's the same thing with parenting. That's what the seasonal approach, that's the perspective it brings to your parenting. When you understand that there are certain seasons of my child's journey through childhood where I ought to be present. This is the amount of time required. There are certain seasons where I cannot have all the liberties I want. I cannot just take up any kind of job. I cannot afford to live just anywhere. You must understand the seasons. Parenting is in seasons. The teenage season has certain peculiarities. There are certain things that you must be aware of. You must pay attention to. The early years, that's a whole season of its own. That particular season requires a lot of nurture. It requires a lot of physical presence. As your child grows older, they become more independent. So the amount of time that you need to invest or show up to be able to, help support the child, it diminishes as your child grows. Of course, time will always still be required, but I'm saying there are certain things you can do when your child is a teenager that you cannot afford to do when your child is a toddler, because they need you more at that stage. They are very dependent. So it's in seasons. So when you have the mindset of, I will go and I'll catch up later, you are not looking at what season you are in. That's actually what should determine what you take or what you don't take. One of the things you struggle with in parenting in a busy world is the fact that there are so many good things, and each of those good things wants your time, just like in a market, right? We started with the analogy of the busy market, where I said, when you walk into a busy market, everybody wants a piece of you. All the vendors are trying to get your attention. What are they looking for? There's something you have that they need. Your money. In a busy world, it's the same thing, but this time, what they want is your time. That's what is at stake. The next misleading thing is thinking, I don't need to learn. My parents never learned, and I turned out okay. They turned out okay, gang. How okay are you, really? And the thing is, there's a phrase that says ignorance is bliss. Truly, ignorance is bliss. You will just be missing out and not even know that you're missing out on something. Ignorance is bliss until it kills you. That's what I add. So I say ignorance is bliss until it destroys you or until it kills you. Yes. Because imagine someone who's hypertensive and doesn't know that they're hypertensive. That's why they call it the silent killer. Because ignorance is bliss until it kills you. On your parenting journey, ignorance is only bliss until crisis hits. Ignorance, somebody put that in the comments. Ignorance is only bliss until crisis hits you. So I don't need to learn. Remember I said that when you fail to learn, you refuse to take up your power that permits you to participate in the script that was written for you to parent with. There are so many parents who are parenting just based on what the other people before them did. They are not changing anything. And it's working against them and working against their child. But when you choose to learn, only then can you be able to decipher between what wounded you and what nurtured you. And then you choose to pass on what nurtured you and to throw away what wounded you. That is a gift to your child. Parents who are able to do that, that is a rare gift that you're giving your child. You're saying it happened to me, but it ends with me. I'm going to do better. I'm going to do different. There is no parent who doesn't want their child to do better than them. So why then do we think that if my parents never learn, I shouldn't learn? Your parents want you to be better than them. And that includes in the area of parenting. There is always room for improvement. So the challenges of parenting today, before we look briefly at the strategies to help you overcome the challenges. The first challenge of parents today is the lack of vision. All right, I've laid the foundation already, so we're going to go quickly from this point. The first challenge is lack of vision. You don't know where you're going to. Many parents, beyond school necessities and all that, they don't really have a plan. You ask a parent, what kind of child are you raising? What's your plan? What's the strategy you're putting in place to raise this child? What is your vision? One of the first things that we do for parents who sign up for the deeply rooted 1-year program is that we put them through the rigorous exercise of drawing up their vision, family vision, and their plans. That's the starting point. Because without that, you will waste time. Without that, you will struggle with every distraction. Again, think about the analogy of the person who goes to the market without a list and the one who goes with a list. They are two different people. The one with the list will easily tell you no because that's not what I'm looking for. Then there's another level, which is another person who does not only come with a list, but also has a long-term plan for their money. The one with a list might still entertain something that looks interesting, but the one that has a long-term plan is most likely to say no, even to those good things. Why? Because it completely takes them off track because they already have a path that they are following. So lack of vision is one of the reasons why parents are struggling today. They lack vision. It's not lack of money. It's not lack of time. It's first lack of vision. Because vision will determine even the job you choose. Vision will determine where you live. Vision will determine, so many aspects of your parenting. The decisions you're making will be shaped by your vision or the lack of it. When you meet a parent who has vision, they will tell you no for a reason. Because it does not align with their plan. Someone who is going somewhere is harder to deter than someone who is going nowhere. If I have nothing doing and you call me, hey, can you come over? Oh, okay, sure, I'm coming over. Compared to someone who has a plan for the day. Oh, sorry, at this time I have this scheduled. I have to handle this. Now I'm sorry, I can't meet with you. So the person who has no plan for their time is always always vulnerable to other people coming in to spend their time for them. So it's not that you don't have time to be a parent or to be a good parent or to be a better parent. You do have time, but you don't have a plan that protects your time. The second challenge that parents are facing today is absence. Absence, that's actually the cancer for parenting today. Absence. Parents have left, they have checked out of the scene. They are there. Even when they are there, they are not there. And then most of the time, they are not there. I don't know if I'm making sense. Absence is the cancer of parenting today. Someone write that for me in the comments. Absence is the cancer of parenting today. Most of the crises we see with children coming up can be connected, can be related to parental absence. And when I talk about absence, don't be quick to say, oh, it doesn't concern me, I'm a stay-at-home parent. No. Actually, you can be a parent that stays home, but you're still very, very absent. So it's not just about physical presence, but it's more about your availability to your child. And there are so many other things that come into play. How you manage your emotions, for example. Whether you're parenting from a place where you have wounds, you're traumatized, what are you dealing with? How are you managing distractions? Do you even know that these things are distractions? There are some parents who stay at home, but they attend every single meeting. They're in every social group that comes up. They have like 50 different social functions that they attend. They're at home. They are not working, but they are very busy. That everyone calls for help, they are just jumping out at every second. They are stay-at-home parents, but they are very busy. So absence is the cancer of parenting today. In most homes, both parents work. And of course, that's not what I'm not here to criticize that. I work myself. All right. In most homes, both parents work full time. That is one of the main issues, the main problems that parenting is facing today. The fact that children are raising themselves. Screens are raising our children. Nannies are raising the children. Now, having a nanny is not a bad thing, but having a nanny without a vision and a structure, that is where there is a problem. That's what actually makes you absent. So you're not just absent because you're not there physically. You're absent because you have not left a vision or a plan that can guide those who are helping you in your absence. So one of the things I teach about structure is I say structure is one of the ways that you can be present even when you're absent, because that's a plan. It's one of the ways that you love your child, by crafting a plan that maintains the safety in their environment even when you're not there. There's so many children who are threatened when their parents step out because those who are left there don't understand how to meet their needs, how to guide them. Your training is up and down. It only continues when you're present. Your training depends only on you being around. When you're not around, everything goes down the drain. You struggle. Inevitably, you're going to struggle. Thank you, Mama Hanan. Absence is the cancer of parenting today. You struggle. Without structure, you're going to struggle. The next challenge is distractions. Parenting today is like walking through a market every blessed day. You wake up, from the time you wake up in the morning, everybody is trying to get a piece of your time. Is it calls, WhatsApp messages, there's news on TV, something has happened here, catching your attention. So many things are competing for the attention of parents today. It would require something extra for you to be able to still find time to invest into your children. Excessive commitments is the other part of the distractions. Now, there are so many parents today who have time but are unable to use that time towards their parenting because they are everywhere. In church, you are in like 5 units. In your social gathering, maybe you have ex-students, you have colleagues. I don't know what social gatherings are there. There are so many of them. There are so many different types, right? So you are in so many different meetings, such that every weekend you're either attending funerals, you're either attending weddings, you're either attending meetings. So it's not enough that you work from Monday to Friday, but then when the weekend comes around, you're nowhere to be found. Why? Excessive commitments. The hardest thing to do when it comes to parenting today, for some people, is saying no. And I'm not talking about no to bad things. Of course, everyone knows it's easy to say no to bad. If it's obviously bad, of course you're going to say no. If I give you a rotten banana, you're going to say no because you can see that it's rotten. The hardest thing, the biggest challenge for parents today is saying no to good things. And until you can say no to good things, you will waste the bulk of your time. There are so many gatherings that you have no business being there. But because you're more concerned about what everyone else will say at the expense of what you're supposed to do as a parent, you indulge. Somebody calls you, please, my in-law died. Can you please accompany me to the village? Okay, let's go. So you are the yes man of your circle. And that's also partly tied in trauma. There are many people who are unable to say no. So if you are a people pleaser, you will struggle as a parent, because your time will be constantly under attack and your children will always be left at a disadvantage, because you will give of yourself to everyone and everywhere, trying to be everything to everyone, and then end up not being able to be who you are meant to be to your children. Excessive commitments. You must be able to review your commitments. Why do I need to be in 5 groups in church? To the point where my kids leave home in the morning, We leave home to go to church in the morning by 6, and I'm still there at 5. And I have a toddler who has not rested. The toddler is having a tantrum. I get upset and I say the child is possessed. When do you make time to really show up, to look into your child's world? So the problem is not that parents don't have time. The problem is the fact that they do have time, but they are misprioritizing, misplaced priorities, trying to be everything to everyone and end up not being able to be the person you were called to be to your children. Excessive commitments. So without vision, without you understanding, having a plan for your time, it is going to be hard to say no. Without understanding the purpose, without having a vision for your family, it will be hard to say no. I use this scenario, the example of, a very typical example, very common today, right? Where someone shows up to your doorstep and says, I'm giving you a visa to go to the US. Your salary will be, I don't know, $20,000. Such a juicy offer, a juicy proposal. There are so many parents who will not think twice before taking up that offer. Meanwhile, the parent with vision will now be able to say, okay, I will get back to you. Why? Because you have to see if what you're being given aligns with where you're going. If I'm traveling to Bamenda from Douala and somebody tells me there is a lavish party, they are giving free cars, and I have to be where I have to be in a couple of hours because there's something important I have to do, it's not difficult to say no. Why? Because my focus was already aligned. So the reason why you are not able to say no to good things, it's not because you're broke or poor or because you're struggling. That's not the point. It's because you don't have an aligned focus. You don't have a clear destination in mind. There are so many parents today who have taken the option of, traveling out, leaving their children behind. I'm not judging, but my point is, many of these parents, who have come to see me in private sessions for issues like this, it is only in the session that they are now able to now see the questions they should have asked before making that decision. Many times we don't sit down to really consider what is at stake. What season of my parenting am I in? What season am I in? What are the needs of my child at this stage? What is supposed to be my role at this stage? Who am I supposed to be to this child at this stage? Can this thing fit into the plan? It's not the plan fitting to the thing, but it is the offer. It is the decision. It is that thing you're considering. How does it fit into the vision? Not vice versa. Because vision defines your direction and your focus. Every other thing is secondary. So whatever is not aligned with that has to fall off. And it's easy to let it go. One of the easiest things that I was able to do when I found my purpose was to say no. I've turned down mouth-watering offers because it would distort our family vision, because it would take, it would bring division that was never the part of our. Unity is a core value for us. We believe that we are a unit. I'm talking about my family. We believe that we are a unit and that the unit stays together. Has it been costly holding on to that? Yes. But has it been worth it? Totally. There are so many disadvantages that come into play when families break up like that. One is here and one is there. So many. But these are things that people are not bold enough to tell you in your face when you say, oh, I got a promotion, but I have to travel there. Nobody will be like, have you got me? I'll ask you. If you come to me with that kind of thing, I'll ask you questions. I will ask you, have you considered this? What plan do you have for this? How are you going to navigate this season? How is it? What happens? You have to ask those questions. That is purposeful parenting in a busy world. Your ability to think in line with your purpose, with your vision, and the plans that you have in place for who and what you have to be doing for your children must come to the table when you're contemplating certain decisions. Where should I live? Is this job good for me or not? Is it the right time to go for this or not? Can this come now or should it wait later? And one thing I tell parents is what is not possible in one season usually becomes possible in the next. So just because you could not really, get a particular job or get a particular promotion at some season because it's going to cause you to be absent as a parent, it becomes possible later when your child grows older. You may not be able to go to school now because your child is still young, but if you wait later, people have gone back to school at age 50. So it's not about putting a stop on your dreams, it's about putting a pause. There are different things. Parenting does not have to be the end of your dreams. It might mean a pause at certain seasons, but then you keep it alive to pick it up when the right season comes. That's purposeful parenting. So lack of knowledge is the next challenge parents are facing. The reluctance to learn, the reluctance to consider that there might be something that they need to learn when it comes to parenting. And without you having that knowledge, you cannot be able to decipher between good and right. Because what is good will always seem like right until you have vision. So what differentiates between good and right is vision and planning. That's what separates the two. Because every good thing looks right, but not every good thing is right. But right things are usually always good. So good is not always right. You need to put on the lens of knowledge. You have a vision. You have a direction you're following. That's what will help you say no, even to good things, just because they are not right. So it might be good, but it's not right. It's good for another season, but not for this season. So it's not right for me right now. I remember there was a time someone came to me with an offer, so good an offer. And I did not need to go and think about it. He was like, won't you even go and think? I said, there's nothing to think about. It doesn't work. Is it juicy? Yes. Will it change things for me? Yes. Will it make my life, so much? Yes, of course, everything will be rose. But it's a no. There's nothing to contemplate because it completely takes me off track. That is purposeful parenting. So the greatest waster of time for parents today is not bad things. It's good things. Good things. What defeats parents today is not bad things. It's good things. It's that you're spending your time on good things instead of right things. And that ends up robbing your children of the time that you should have spent parenting them. Let me give you a typical example. Accompanying your friend whose friend has lost their mother-in-law. Is it a good thing? Of course, from a social perspective, it's a good thing. You're being a good friend. But is it necessarily the right thing? Not always. So what puts parents at a disadvantage is not good things. It's not right things. It's not bad things, sorry. They are good things. Trying to be the good person, trying to be the yes man, trying to please everybody. So they are good things usually. Sometimes even just helping other people. You're not able to say no. Why? Because you don't have any plan. You don't have vision. You don't have purpose defined. So it's easy for you to go off track. So present but not available parents. Children get the rest and not the best. That's another challenge for parents today. Many parents are available, they show up physically, and even when they do, they are still absent. They are always on their phone. They are trying to cook. They are trying to clean up. They are trying to do this and that. You're always busy. Even when you show up as a parent, even when you're finally home, your children can finally see you. When they come, you're like, please wait, I'm still working. You're still unavailable. You don't make time. The time doesn't count. It's not invested. It's just being spent. So you can spend all day at home. But if you look at the interactions you had with your child, they were mostly transactional. So what counts towards you making an impact on your parenting journey is the quality of your interactions with your child, not the quantity. Because you can be interacting with your child all day, but it's mostly about go here, come there, calm down, don't do this. Have I not said this? Think about it. Just look at your day of parenting yesterday, right? When you were with your child, what were your interactions mostly about? Was it mostly about what you wanted the child to do, what the child should not do, and what the child has done? That's mostly transactional. That's not the quality we're talking about here. So how to parent better in a busy world? Firstly, go after knowledge. Definitely. Everything I've shared here, that's knowledge. The more of such things you learn, you discover that the better you're able to make decisions that will go beyond your children to your children's children's children. So go after knowledge. Your decisions as a parent will continually be influenced only by your experiences, your emotions, your fears, until you learn something different. If you never learn, that will be all that dictates your parenting. And trust me, it's very limited. You are going to be working a script that is written for you by society, by your parents and their parents and their parents before them, by every other person except you. Knowledge is the only thing that helps you to review the script and actually put your handwriting on it. So it enables you to rewrite the script that is running your parenting. Instead of allowing society, other people's expectations, your parents and their parents and their parents and all the generational stuff run the script for you. Without knowledge, every good thing will seem like the right thing. Every good thing will seem right. When you don't have knowledge, every good thing will look like it's the right thing. This job comes, you jump on it. This trip opportunity, this traveling opportunity comes, you're on it. Somebody says, come here, you're there. There's some parents who are never available. Why? They are chasing good things. They're not doing bad things. In fact, they are chasing after good things. And usually it's for their children. But then it's still misplaced priorities. And it's still not going to get you the kind of results you want. It's still misplaced priorities. The next thing you must do is to define a vision. Like I said, so I have a guide out that can help you capture and execute your family vision. If you're interested in that guide, you can always reach out to me to get a copy. But for those who come on to sign up for the 1-year program, this is the very first and the core exercise that we carry out. It is obligatory for everyone because that is the starting point. All right. Without vision, you will perish. Without vision, you will often miss your way. You will struggle. So define a vision, set realistic goals. Now, goal setting is how you manage the different seasons of your parenting journey. There are different seasons. Goals help you manage the different seasons. Right? How are you managing the season? So with your child is in the toddler season, the difference, how are you managing those seasons? Goal setting. Now, there are long-term goals. Usually that one can be taken care of by your vision, but then there are unique goals for different seasons, different phases of your journey. That's what helps you keep your focus a priority. Keep your parenting in focus. Helps you keep your parenting in focus. Goal setting is what makes the invisible visible. So you can actually raise a great person. You can actually raise a child that will make impact before they're even able to walk. That's the power of goal setting. So because for you to set a goal, you must have seen the end. And purposeful parenting is seeing the end from the beginning. So you must finish even before you start. That is how to succeed. You must finish before you start. Where are you going? Who are you trying to raise? You must finish before you start. You have to finish before you start. The next strategy you need is structure. Now, I have an image here that shows my family vision pasted on the fridge of my, in fact, we call it the command center, but we have it pasted, sorry, I didn't update this. There's actually an update. We have it pasted at different points of the house that reminds us, right? The Bible says what? Write the vision, make it plain on tablets that he might run that reads it. So it's important. Your vision has to be in your face. If you walk into my home, you will know what we are about. The vision is there for you to see. All right. It also helps you know what you can and cannot do in our space, because that is the core of our identity. That is what we are about. So that also tells you what is not welcome in our space. All these things form the foundation for you to train effectively. Because whether you're there or not, whoever comes in your absence has a sense of direction with regards to what it is that you want as far as the training of your children is concerned. So vision is crucial. Right? The next thing is structure. You've heard me talk about the fact that the problem with parents today is not that they don't have time, but is that they don't know what to do with the time they have, and they don't also understand how to create structure around their time, how to schedule their priorities. Now, if doing a particular activity with my child is a priority for me as defined by my goals, then structure helps me put it into time. All right. For example, by the end of the day today, there is a time slot during which there are scheduled activities that I carry out with my children every single day. I wear many hats. So giving quality of time is very crucial for me. That is how I win. That is the key to parenting in a busy world. Being able to put quality to time and not just spending the time. What you're doing in the time you have is more important than how much time you're spending. Let me take that over again. What you're doing during the time when you ask that, during the time you're spending with your child is more important than how much time you're spending. Zig Ziglar actually said that in the quantity of time is usually quality of time, but not all the time. Sometimes quantity of time has zero quality of time because the interactions are mostly transactional. They are not calculated to help you make progress in particular areas. So quality of time is more important than just how much time you're spending with your child. Far more important. So structure helps you be able to put your goals into action. So if you have a goal, maybe to work on your relationship with your child, to help your child read, structure helps you put that into, practical steps. What will you do daily? How would this goal look like on a daily basis? So every day you're taking one small step to get you to where you want to be. So it's not about not having 5 hours. You don't need 5 hours. You need just a couple of minutes, 30, 1 hour. You need just to have well calculated time that is programmed for you to make an investment. One of the things we're doing on the DR Tribe, on the 1-year program since it started, is that Mondays are dedicated for what we call the ritual talk. So the parents are supposed to sit down with their children and actually teach them something every Monday. Imagine that you did that for 1 full year. Can you imagine the ground you would have covered? Imagine how much you would have taught. Because the bulk of why, the main reason why many parents are struggling is because they are not teaching. They are mostly correcting. They are mostly correcting and criticizing and not teaching enough. You say you said it once. Saying it and teaching it are two different things. You can say something, but you've not taught a lesson. Saying something and teaching your child something are not the same thing. In teaching, there is saying, but in saying is not always teaching, right? So you can say something to your child, but you haven't taught them. Because whether or not you are teaching them will depend on their age, will depend on how you are saying it, will depend on the environment, so many other things, how you're demonstrating it, how you're modeling it. So teaching is not always the same as saying something. So many parents are saying, correcting, but no time is given to teaching. So that's my structure. That structure in my home is actually pasted. It says, so I have a guide out. If you're interested, you can get the structure guide. I think that's my most popular guide so far. The structure guide, structured parenting guide. It actually helps you. It is the key tool. It is in this. Without my structure, I am finished. So if you're a parent like me who wears many hats, structure is how you win. That's how you win. It is the key to parenting with ease in a busy world. Structure. Defining what happens during different portions of time, but not just that, defining what values govern the activities of your home, defining, how those who are spending time with, who are helping you with the care of your children are supposed to be engaging with the children. Structure defines all of those things. It is how you parent even when you're not there. So it helps you parent. It helps you keep your parenting ideals in action or in practice, even when you're not there. It's a vital tool for any parent who works. So it's not enough to say, oh, because I have to work, that's why my kids. No, learn. That's why learning is crucial. Learn how to define structure. That's what's going to help you in that situation. The next thing you need is that you need a village. One of the things that defeats parents today as well is isolation parenting. You're trying to do everything by yourself. You know, truly, it takes a village to raise a child. In a busy world, you need a village around your child, literally. I'm not talking about your village, in the village. I'm talking about a set of people that you have intentionally selected. You have shared your vision and values with them, and they're able to collaborate with you, in your parenting vision. That's the village you need to build around your child. So it's not a village that the child was born into. It's a village that the parents intentionally built around the child. And there are some crucial members of this village are, for example, your child's class teacher. Many parents don't realize that your child's class teacher is a member of your child's village by default. Why? Any adult that is spending significant amounts of time with your child is by default a member of that village. They have a part to, they are participating on your parenting journey, whether you realize it or not. So without realizing it, you cannot be intentional about what you're doing about, the kind of influence that person has. But when you realize that there are some key players on my parenting journey that I need to make an ally, you will continue to struggle. Your nanny, for example. Many parents are very casual about when it comes to their nanny. I had a whole session on Facebook about this whole issue of help on your parenting journey. How to choose help, how help can help you and all of that. How to get help to help you well. Because sometimes some people have help, but they're not well helped by the help. About making sense. All right. So building a village is crucial. Because as a parent today, you cannot be there 24/7. You can't. You can't. You're going to need to move. You're going to need support. But then, purposeful parenting entails that you be intentional about who is going to be the key players of that village, of the people that are going to be around your child. That's why I tell parents that come in for course, I tell them, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not bringing in your friends, family members to join you in learning. Because these are the people that, for most parents, by default, are members of that village. I've had parents tell me, I've really worked on this, I've set up my structure, but each time my sister-in-law comes, each time my children's uncle or auntie comes, they undo everything I've done. So imagine constantly building and having someone undo it. That's what happens when you're not intentional about the people around you. If you're learning alone, you're going to struggle more. So you need to, we have sessions like invite your friends, invite your those who are part of your child's village, those who are part of the people that are constantly around your child. When you learn together and grow together, it's easier to collaborate. It's easier to share your parenting ideals with them. It's easier to have them support really matters. Sometimes the antagonism is actually even coming from your spouse. And this is a common cry from parents I've worked with. You have a parent come in, has learned so much, but the spouse will not want to learn and constantly is pulling them behind. Those are the realities of parenting today. And one thing I always tell them, keep sharing what you are learning. Talk about it. Just by sharing, you're making a difference. You are helping the other person to come up to your level. Very important. All right? All right, so is there any strategy I've missed out? What challenge are you facing as a purposeful parent today that I haven't mentioned? I mentioned a few challenges that parents are facing today. I talked about absence. I talked about showing up, as a tired, drained parent. I talked about juggling several responsibilities. I talked about, which other ones did I talk about? Let me hear in the comments. What challenge were you hoping to find that I didn't mention? What challenge were you hoping to find that I didn't mention? So make sure that quality of time is prioritized over quantity of time. What goes into the time, what happens during the time is more important than just spending the time. We've gone 1 hour and 48 minutes. It's supposed to be a 2-hour session. So any questions, feel free to ask before I shut down. What challenge are you facing as a parent that I haven't mentioned? Let me hear you in the comments. Or are we all coming from behind? I noticed that there are some people who are following the session from behind. Did I miss out on any challenge that you are facing as a busy parent, as a busy parent today? What challenge did I miss out? What challenge that? What about the strategies? I have mostly parents from the course here, from the 1 year. I can see parents from the 1 year program, um, parents from BSBC, the ongoing Building a Strong Bond with Your Child course. You're welcome. Parents here who are here for the first time. Yeah, I can see a few first timers. What strategy, what challenge did I miss out on? What challenges? What challenges? Hello, Mama Melissa. You have a question? Feel free to ask your question. Where are you struggling? So we couldn't really talk about the details of how to work out those strategies. This is the first unsupportive partners. Yeah. I think that was supposed to be lack of support. Lack of support was supposed to be a key point of its own, lack of collaborative partners, lack of collaborative partners. Yeah, that's a challenge for parents in a busy world because you can't do it on your own, right? If you're working full time, you need that support. That's why the approach, anyway, we actually tackled it as a solution, right? One of the strategies that you must prioritize to successfully parent today is being able to build that village, right? It's something that you cannot give up on, including with your partner. You can't give up. You can't give up. I've had stories of parents who started off, their spouses were very unsupportive, but along the line, because they never gave up, the spouses were able to come on board, were able to get to the point where they began to invest in their own growth, where they began to collaborate better. And today the story is different. So don't give up. All right. My husband was not always a purposeful parent himself. You know, at the beginning of our journey, it was tough because he believed his beliefs about parenting were very, very, very rigid. But like I always say, nothing convinces a person more than results. All right. The more results, the more you're able to apply knowledge, get results, show proof that it's actually working. Nothing convinces more than that. So courage. Yes, unsupportive partners can really be a, a pain in the behind. But again, make sure your vision is clear, make sure you're communicating sufficiently, make sure you have a structure, make sure you have a plan. It helps significantly. It helps. All right. And also be able to identify people who are temporary players. Now, this is really key because many times we treat temporary players as though they are permanent players. Let me give you a simple example. A nanny, for example, who does not want to align maybe with your structure components or the plan you have for your family, and is constantly going against the plan or constantly, violating what it is that you want to have done. That's a temporary player. One of the prerequisites for choosing who is the right fit for, the kind of support you need on your journey is their willingness to collaborate. Is their willingness to have respect for the values and for the strategies that you want to use to parent your children. That's the entry point. So if that cannot work, then it cannot work altogether. you know so I've had cases of parents who maybe have family members, extended family members especially, who are the problem, who are constantly contradicting what it is that you're trying to do, the system you're trying to build. Those are temporary players as well. They are temporary players. Your primary responsibility is to your children, to your family. There are some people that you help from a distance. It's not everyone who, must be under your roof before you can help them. There are some people, for the sake of your vision, right, and your ability to have a coordinated approach with those around your children, for the sake of synergy, there are some people you should help from a distance. Not everyone must be helped from under your roof. Children who come in the family like nephews, nieces, of other ones. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Temporary players. If it's not working, they are not permanent players. Your primary responsibility is to your children. I'm not advocating for selfishness or not helping others. No, I'm saying you must understand your priorities. Especially for typical African families, we usually have the lines blurred between our primary responsibilities and those who are secondary responsibilities. All right, you are accountable for your children, not for the ones that come under your care. So that means that if the temporary people are compromising what it is that you're trying to, they're not able to align. Remember, they are temporary. All right, except you are choosing to adopt someone, that's different. But if it's a temporary where their own parents are still participating in their lives and all of that, then it's temporary. I have parents who have gotten into serious crisis because they did not understand these boundaries. They didn't understand those boundaries, and it led to a lot of struggle on their journey until they got to the point where they had to acknowledge that these are temporary players. My primary responsibility is to my children. Those are the ones you give account for, your own children, and those that you've adopted or taken under your care as you want to take them as your children. So whether they are born or adopted, those are the ones I'm calling your primary responsibility. So children who come in the family, like nephews, nieces, does it align? There are cases of bring in people like this, and sometimes it completely spells chaos where they are not willing to go by the structure or the values or the system in your home. They constantly are antagonistic, and it begins to mislead your own children. So again, remember, you're the custodian of time. So you get to choose who is going to be a part of your child's environment. You have that power. So it's a choice that you're making. If you choose to allow people around that are clearly compromising what you're building, that's a choice you're making. And it's going to have consequences in the long run. It's going to so you have to be bold. Purpose actually gives you boldness. Most times, parents get into trouble because they hesitate to say no when they should have said no. Because they are more concerned about what other people will say. What will my family say if? What would they think if? Where they will think that I'm wicked. So all of those are fears. Those things actually get in the way of you being purposeful in your approach. Purpose empowers you to say no, even to things that will cause people to talk. You must be ready for that. When you are in pursuit of something, you must understand that even when someone is running a race, there are people at the stands who are spectators who are clapping. If you have to pay attention to everyone cheering, you will never get anywhere. You will never get anywhere. So you must be ready even to be the object of people's conversation just because they don't understand where you are going. And that's okay. You don't need everyone to understand it. All right? It's not for them to understand. They don't need to understand it all the time. But you must be ready to stand by decisions as dictated by the vision that you've put in place. That's why vision is paramount for purposeful parenting. You can't be purposeful without vision, clearly defined and stated. All right. So we have guides available. If you need help, maybe drawing up one of these things. But overall, I encourage you, sign up for any of the courses to learn. All right. To learn. That's how you position yourself to parent, to make decisions that benefit you and your child in a busy world. All right. Knowledge is crucial. Vision is indispensable. Okay. I'll see you again next Thursday. We're going to be here again next Thursday for our next discussion topic. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Bye.